we. And our world and why we are here. We're going to start seeing we in terms of the 5 aggregates that I've talked about previously. In Pali, it's called the 5 khandhas. That's the aggregate of materiality, rupa. You can call it body. The aggregate of feeling, vedana. Aggregate of perception, sanya, or past perception, stored perception, memory. And the aggregate of mental formations, or thinking, or thoughts, called sankhara. And then finally, the aggregate of consciousness. It says vijnana. Apart from Nibbana, these are the aggregates which form the world, which form us. So I'm going to explain our world in terms of these 5 aggregates. These aggregates are ultimate realities. They exist. And that's the other thing called concepts. It exists in the form of concept, ideas. There isn't a problem with these aggregates because they are aggregate. They exist in this world. Where the problem arises is when we get attached to these aggregates. We form attachment to these aggregates. Now these aggregates, we will come to know, or if not to know, that they are changing all the time. They're impermanent. But somehow or other, we take them as permanent. I'm going to show that practically all of us spend our life being attached to one of these aggregates. And that comes about through our liking. We can say that we can see it very clearly in the types of professions that we choose. In terms of people who are very attached to the aggregate of material, of body, they find pleasure in body, they find pleasure in looking after the body, and you have they find pleasure And you can find that people who are attached to the body will be people who are engaged in bodybuilding, they want to build up a nice body, whether it's male or female, and people who are in the beauty industry, models, and you can also include actors, actresses. So those people spend their life looking after their body. All whatever they do revolves around looking after the body. They're careful in what they eat, whether they have enough sleep. They buy all these products, just to make sure that the skin is clean. And for people who build up their body, they're also careful in what they eat. Buy all the products or protein so that they can enhance the body. So you find that there are people who are attached to the body and they lead that profession. And there are lots of people who do that. Right? And then you have another sort of people who are attached to feelings and they become musicians, create music, create nice feelings. And then you have another section of people who are attached to perceptions. They want to create something beautiful. You have artists, painters, sculptures. So they're attached to that. You find that's the most important thing. Nothing else matters. It doesn't matter that they don't wash for a few days, as long as they get the painting done. If they don't eat, it doesn't matter. They want to get this painting right. But then that's the most important thing. So with the musician, composers, it's the same thing with them, right? Getting a piece of music right, or attached to listening to music, just get that feeling. Then for people who are attached to mental formation, there are people who are authors, create stories, and you have people like philosophers who try to figure things out. And we can say that scientists create models to explain the world. They're very interested in that, they are preoccupied with that. Same thing, with the same zeal as all those people who are attached, whether they are attached to music, whether they are attached to their body, whether they are attached to perception, whether they are attached in creating a new political philosophy. They're the same, right? That's the attachment. That's the most important thing. New economic theory, something like that. Then finally, in consciousness, the state of consciousness, there are people who want to experience new stuff. Try magic mushroom, psychedelic drugs, meditation, all sorts. Or they go into the American jungles, with the Incas, they have all these concoctions, You get a new experience, experience of consciousness. Then you have other professions like athletes or And they combine, they must have the physical ability, right? And they must have the talent to be able to do what they want to do. So it combines both, you know. So with them, they're attached to building a body and be able to execute the sport which they are in, very well. In that, they have involved perception, being able to see a way around what they're doing, how to put a ball into the net, whether it's basketball, football, whatever. And then you have actors or actresses, so it involves the physical body, being good looking or funny looking, right? And be able to deliver lines very well. Then we have religious people. Which category do they fall into, right? Religious practitioners fall into one of the four categories, right? They might be interested in this mystic experience, right? So there will be attachment to feeling, getting into a trance, whatever, finding happiness, or you want to see something, you want to fly like a bird, to be able to see from the sky, perception, want to be able to see heaven, want to be able to see, hell. So they attach to that. So they start to practice with that attachment. Yeah, this is what I want to do, right? Perception, third eye or fourth eye, whatever, Then there are people who might understand religion, philosophy behind it. That's mental formation. That's where you have philosophers as well. So in that part, they have become philosophers. Then the religious personalities, they want to attain something, become enlightened, become sane, that omnipotent. They want to have union with God, in the presence of God, whatever is it, however they describe it. But that's the last category, seeking a different type of consciousness, heightened consciousness, advanced consciousness, transcendental consciousness, name it, altered consciousness. So religious personalities are different. They fall into one of those four categories, We cannot say that if you're attached to a consciousness, you're better off than the people who are attached to the body. Right? Okay, we cannot say that. Right? Or people who are attached to perception is better than people who are attached to philosophy, science. It's like, in every of these aggregates, we have very famous personalities, so I compare Ven Kovido and Albert Einstein, so both of them are excellent in their own field, right? Mozart, so when we start being attached to this aggregate, begin to identify ourselves with this aggregate. Well, I'm a model, or I'm an actor, I'm a footballer, I'm a musician, I'm an artist, I'm a sculptor, I'm a scientist, I'm a philosopher, I'm a happiness guru, or a meditation teacher, right? So begin to identify, let me think, this is me. So we got this sense that, well, there's this person who is doing all these things, There's this real identity in there, that this me. When we get up first thing in the morning, we feel we don't have enough sleep, right? We are not any artist or anything. There's a human being who doesn't have enough sleep, right? That's our identity, I don't have enough sleep. I have to wake up. Then you can say the next minute, become a husband or whatever it is. I've got to make the toast for the family. So your identity changes. So go down, make toast, whatever it is, to make sure that everybody have their breakfast. And then you're the husband or father making toast. And after that you put on your tie, put on your jacket, become a CEO, you get your father, you get a briefcase, and get off your car, you're a CEO now. Yeah? And when you finish your work, you come back, switch on the television, you become a sports fanatic. But we go into this role, this identity, we perform, we act out without realizing it. We know we have to be that, right? And because we don't have the mindfulness, we don't recollect that we actually are that person. We have taken that identity. When you're a dad who is very serious, you're a different personality, when you're a CEO, of a big company, you are a CEO of this big company, your employees, look up to you, people take your word for granted, whatever, on this show, you expect something, you expect work to be done, give them time, So you have your own rule, about how things should happen around you. And then you switch from one identity to another, and we don't realize it. That's because we don't have the mindfulness to recollect every time that we switch role. So you can say our identity arises depending on the role, depending on the situation, depending on the role we are playing, or the role we are performing. But that's not only that. We have moods as well, right? Right? So we can become a very angry father, right? Or very jealous CEO, right? So if you take into our moods, our different moods have a different identity, right? And that can change. So throughout the day, you'll find that our identity changes all the time. And that depends on the circumstances we're in. of the environment we are in. Right? We expect it to be there. We expect it to behave in a particular way so that things will run smoothly or things will run the way we want it. And that's the role we play. That's the role we adopt. That's the identity that we have. Behind all this changing identity, we still believe there's still another identity, there's this me, which is unchanging, right? Something permanent. I got this idea, there must be something which is permanent. Don't like something which is impermanent because we can't get hold of it, Well, that's our view of the self. We feel comfortable, if we have something to hold on to which is permanent. Right? Because if it's changing, we don't like it. You can identify with something changing. Right? So we create something which is permanent within us. So we feel safe. The trouble with creating something which is permanent is that we got the idea that it's permanent, but it is not permanent. And we expect it to be permanent. We expect ourselves to be like that. We expect ourselves to be good all the time, do the right thing, not get angry, fair, all the good things, but we can't. Right? Because we respond according to our tendency, which is conditioned. Right? So we have this problem. And it's a big problem, which everybody's trying to solve, Goes to your psychiatrist, psychiatrist tell them something, you read up how to be happy book, tell them something, take a few of these pills, maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't help. Then you go round and round again, Try to find a cure for this changing personality, right? They're trying to get it to be steady, right? You're trying to get it to be a good person. You're trying to get it to be permanent, right? This is what I want to be, right? Always good, always courteous, never lose my temper, right? Alert. We can't. Right? That's the first thing to realize. We cannot. We cannot because how we behave depends on the most important law discovered by the Buddha. It's called the law of dependent origination. What it simply says is, when there is contact with an object, feeling arises. Simple thing. Depending on feeling, craving or aversion arises. Depending on craving, clinging arises, which is attachment. And so on. Right? So the most important bit is the contact. The contact only occurs if there are three things that are present. First, there is this sensitive medium, That's our sense space. We have an eye. If you don't have an eye, you cannot see. Right? If you have an eye and it's not working, right? If you're a dead person, you don't have this consciousness, right? You still don't have contact, right? Another thing which have to be present is the object which the eye perceives, right? If you do not perceive an object, the feeling related to that object doesn't arise, right? If you do not perceive, whether with the eye or with the mind, something you like, that feeling won't arise. If you do not perceive with the eye or with the mind, the person you don't like, that feeling doesn't arise. So all these three things must be there. Right? Object, sense space, and then consciousness. Consciousness, the Buddha divided into 6 types of consciousness. Eye consciousness that's related to our 5 sense space, and the mind. That's who we are, right? Changing identities, right? Changing identities. There's no fixed identity. But we insist on wanting to have a fixed identity. We insist on wanting to have control, right? We have no control because of dependent origination. Right? So how do we solve the problem? Right? If we are, the things we contact create this feeling, we have a problem, right? We have to come to our world. Right? Things in the world. Now, the world as we see it, right, is very real, right? But when you really think of it, right, when you see the world, the only there's only 2 little images at the back of the retina, which create this 3-dimensional world. Right? You don't even need the images when you're asleep. Right? You have dreams. Right? The mind can create a world where you're in it, where you're participating, where you have all sorts of feelings. Right? And you don't know the difference when you're dreaming. And that's how powerful the mind is. Right? Now how do we relate to the physical world and the world of the mind? What actually happens is that there is a physical world. We receive information from the physical world through our 5 senses. And from our 5 senses, we create what I call an identikit. Right? And then project it to the world. Right? So So when I see this cup, so I create an identikit of the cup which matches, right, this cup, right? So this cup appears like this to me. Then you say, well, it appears similar, right? It's not quite. Now, if somebody happens to be colorblind and couldn't see a red color, he sees the cup totally different, right? And he doesn't know it, right? Until somebody tells him, you come to know about it later, you know, there's something called color. You might see different shades of grey, there's something called color, right? And I remember I happened to talk to somebody who's actually colorblind, and he's about 70 years old, and he says, yeah, I'm colorblind, you know. So we begin talking, and then he says, can you explain green to me, you know, in a different way, you know, without referring to colors, you know, however you want to describe it. Then I said, there's olive green, there's apple green, there's emerald green. They said, wow. Right? I mean, there's so many different types of green, right? And he lived in this world for 70 years, right? And he doesn't know, he doesn't know that we have shades of green, right? After living for 70 years. Right? So that is his real experience. Right? He can never understand color, right? Because he cannot experience color, right? So what we experience in this world is through our five senses. And if our five senses is wonky, right? Okay? Then we don't experience the world, right? The best example for people who meditate is when you sit down and meditate, and then when your legs is numb, you try walking, right? You don't feel the floor, right? And that's real, right? You lose your leg. That's a real feeling, right? So you have to make sure you get what you call the sensitivity of your leg back before you start walking. Dangerous, because you can actually twist your ankle, you know. Well, that's how we experience the world, right? The experience of the world is internal. We create identity, right? So when we get up, our leg is numb, we don't feel our leg. Yeah, if you actually get up and walk, you only have one leg, right? You cannot move the other leg, right? And you move the other leg and you try to step, you cannot feel the floor. Right? Try that, you know, but hold on to something, right? So now, if you begin to understand that our perception of our world depends on both something that's external and something that we project out, right? Because something that's external doesn't change, it's there, the same for everybody. It is us who create a different identity. That is why different people see different things. Right? No, I'm not talking about I'm talking about something much more now. Well, something not as complex as a person, right? Something like just a dish, right? So the same dish, because they taste it, got different tastes and everything. Some people like it, some people don't like it, right? That's because we create we dish itself, a physical dish, right? All its chemicals and everything, right? But when we experience it, we give it attributes, right? It's tasty, or it's dry, or it's too hot, too sweet, too sour. It's all different, right? And whether it's too sweet, too sour, whatever, depending on our previous conditions when we're young. So if we've never tasted chili before, then it's really hot. Right? That's our conditioning. So we create identity, wow, this is hot, we mustn't try. Somebody comes, this is cheap, this one, this is great stuff, you know. So we respond to things. We respond to our own creation. Right? Now for food it's not too bad, we can take it or leave it. Right? But when you come to people, right? Friends, enemies, the boss, the employer, right? When you have to interact with real people, then we have to be careful. Right? If we create everybody as our enemy, right? Then we'll feel very lonely and fearsome. Right? If we create everybody as our friend, and we have lots of friends. Whole creation. Right? You can pick and choose whatever identity. And we always pick and choose. Right? How we pick and choose also depends on our conditioning. Some people are very critical, you know, this is not right, that is not right, everything is not right. Whereas some say, yeah, it's okay, okay. So, the way to recondition ourselves is to look at aversion or the craving that arises in us and try to see why are we adverse to this object? Why are we attached to this object and nobody else is attached to this object? Huh? We have to look at it. We try to see exactly what attributes have we put into this object that we find so fascinating. Maybe her eyes, you know, look like my mother's eyes, so I like it. You know, beautiful eyes. Get by everything. Beautiful eyes. That's it. Right? So you've got to look at that. There are lots of things you have to look at. I'll just give you an example. There's actual practice, right? So there's an actual practice that looking at the parts of the body, lots of stuff. I'm giving you an example of how we create our world. Well, our world starts from conventional reality, where everybody agrees. Right? Dishcloth, the towel. That's my favorite. Dishcloth, the towel. Because I get into trouble in going to somebody's kitchen. I always remember, I'll switch the dishcloth, switch the tea towel. First thing I have. Right? So I don't get into trouble. Conventional reality. Then, before conventional reality is something we, as a society, agrees. But on our personal level, we create identity. Right? Where we put the attribute. Alright? Before the identikit comes the label. Alright? So we have something called a drone, something new called a drone. We have to put a label in it, you know, a drone, so everybody knows what a drone is, so that's a label, you know. So we might have further divide into different types of truth. Okay? So we have the truth, that is the label for it. Now before the label comes the concept, right? The concept of a thing. Right? We have a concept of a drum, that's why we create a drum, a throne first. So supposing I have this, I have to create a concept first, right? Then I can put a label on it, right? So if I decide that, well, this is a magic eraser, that's a concept. You want to give it a label, magic eraser, so you know what it is. Everybody's happy with it, right? So nobody's going to call it tissue now, magic eraser, right? So for me, it's a magic eraser, right? So it starts with concept labels, So if somebody steals my magic eraser, I won't be happy. But they throw in my dirty tissue, I don't mind, The labels, concept, that's the physical thing. So what is the physical thing? The physical thing is made up of, in the Buddha's time, they divide things into the 4 great elements, Now you would say it's made of atoms, molecules, and call it quarks, whatever you want, How do we start training ourselves to see the world as it is? Differentiate between physical reality, concept, label, identity, conventional reality. Everything in the world has a name, conventional reality. Then we learn that the next step is to see the identity. And you identify the identity by looking whether you have an strong attachment or strong aversion to it. You work with the things that are very strong because it's easier to see. Right? To be able to see means to be able to have that insight into it. Right? To be able to have the insight, you must have the mental ability to do it. That involves meditation, that involves concentration and mindfulness. And if you are able to hold that thought in your mind, right? It's only when you're calm, when you're calm, when the mind is calmed down, when you have concentration, then you're able to reflect and investigate. Right? So there's the practice of training the mind, developing the mind, which is some of the meditation. And there's the practice of investigating things that arises in us. It's called investigating of the Dhamma. It's called Dhamma Vichaya. Right? For those of you who know, it is one part of the 7 factors of enlightenment, or Vajrayana. But you don't really need to do that. You need to know that you have to do that and you have to investigate. And once you investigate, you find out how you create this identity. And this identity is something that you create and you fool yourself and you fall in love with it. Or you are averse to it, or you have phobia about it. It can be that bad. Right? Phobias. Right? It can be that bad. So when we start to look at things, then we start to look at people, start to look at ourselves. We are also an identikit which we create ourselves. Right? Who we are depends on how we choose to see ourselves. Right? If you're severe with yourself, you're never good enough. Right? If you're very relaxed with yourself, yeah, I'm good. Anything goes. Right? But how you build up yourself depends on what you choose. Depends on depends on the environment, what the parents tell you, what your friends tells you, what the books you read tells you. You know, it is, well, you're a monkey, some books, or whatever. So remember that however you think of yourself, some things you created. Whatever that you create depends on your condition, right? The best thing is to know that, well, that's creation of this identity, which is false, which is conditioned, was so by the environment, by the people. So the correct way of seeing yourself is to see yourself in relation with your current environment. Whatever that creates anger in you, you've got to deal with that thing. Whatever that creates craving in you, you have to deal with that thing. Whatever that creates hate in you, you've got to deal with that thing. And that thing is just the identity. Right? Beyond identity, before the identity comes the label. You only get to that part. When you're semi-enlightened, when you become thin, before that you don't deal with that part, right? Labeling. That's towards the end of the part. You can say that a fully enlightened person is aware, every time is aware of the labels that he put on them. Right? For us, we can see conventional reality, identity, right? But then we can see realities, labels, the whole lot. You can see the whole lot, right? You can see what the mind is doing. So they know exactly what things are. So it doesn't mean that conventional reality is false, identity is false, labels is false, concept is false, ultimate reality is true. Right? It means that all these things exist. Right? You have to respect people's conventional reality. You have to respect people's dishcloth, tea towel. Right? So an enlightened person, right, will understand that. He will respect people's conventional reality. He will respect people, identity, label. Right? But for himself, he sees things in ultimate reality. Because when he sees things in ultimate reality, stripped of all that has been created, right? He doesn't get any of the problems, right, of those things that have been created. It doesn't get attached to the things that it has created. It doesn't create it. Right? It doesn't create all those things. It doesn't create identity. Right? Because people create identity. They feel all in love with the identity. They are adverse to the identity. Do you understand that? There's no need for an identity. You respond. You react or respond within the particular moment, whatever that's needed, whatever that's required, whatever that it's doing, whatever that's required of it. That's it. So it doesn't differentiate. But he knows what's required because he understands everything. He recognizes everything. Why are we here? Simple question, simple analogy. It says, why is the grass here? Why is the grass here? Well, the grass is here because of the seed. Grass seed. Right? That's why the grass is here. If there's no seed, there will be no grass. Right? Everybody happy, no weeds, no seeds, no weeds. So the first thing is make sure, grass seed doesn't fall onto your, all this unwanted wild grasses doesn't fall into your lawn. Right? Because of the seed, there's the crown. So we are here because we have this seed as well. And that seed is karma. We call it karma. Right? So that's a seed. Suppose that, right? So in your lawn, the grass will always be there because the seed is there. Suppose that. No seed, no crown. If the grass continually creates seed, there will be no crown. Right? There's no end to it, right? So people who does reading will know there's no end to reading. You will get every last bit of it. Right? When you're not sure, you've got to read out, spit a bit out as well. Right? So in the same case with if we have a seed, there's no end to us being reborn again. Right? Now, how does it work? One of these, the most potent of these karmic sins, craving to exist. Right? There's this strong craving to exist. There's this strong fear of death. Right? Because he is under the delusion that someday he is dying. Right? Because they always believe there's a permanent self. There is somebody that's going to die. So somebody better book a place before they leave this body. Right? So there's somebody actually grabs hold of a place before they leave this body. He won't leave this body until he grabs us a place. Right? He is that strong. Hold on to his body. He will only let go of this body when he can find another place. Nobody wants to die. No living things want to die. Animals, anything. Even amoeba, runs away, you see danger. Right? Self-preservation. me understand more or less a self as well. You know, any animals, self-preservation. It is not an animal, we don't have people say we have an animal instinct, but I will replace it and just say that we have this delusion that there is a self that we want to preserve. Right? So animals also have that delusion. But there is something that they need to preserve, something permanent. Right? So it's not an animal instinct. Right? So when the person is fully enlightened, they know that there is no permanent person. Right? No permanent person to preserve. Right? They don't book another place. They know the true nature of the mind. True nature of the mind is deathless. It doesn't die. Huh? So it doesn't create, it doesn't find another form to exist. Right? So the mind believes that because there's a self, it needs a form to exist. Whatever form. Comes out as a baby, comes out, it comes out as if you believe in angel, whatever, different form. Right? So it needs to find a form. Right? It needs to be. For a person who is enlightened, it doesn't seek to be born again, because it knows the nature of the mind. Mind is deathless. Just let it be. That's it. Doesn't seek another birth. Right? Once it looks back and see the mind as it is, then you can see it knows. Right? And what is that knowing? Well, you've got to find out for yourself. Right? So it knows. It knows the true nature of the mind. Right? And the true nature is different. So because of this delusion that there's a self to preserve, we are in this cycle of rebirth called samsara. Continue being reborn. Whether you like it or not, continue. Whether you like it or not, there will be grass in your garden. Right? Unless that seed is taken out. Unless that not knowing, which is called avijja, or sometimes in the beginning they translate avijja as ignorance. Right? Not knowing. Not knowing. Not knowing is self. But in the path of practice, it's not knowing the Four Noble Truths. And not knowing itself is the third noble truth, not knowing Nirvana. Right? So ultimately, it's not knowing the third noble truth. On the path itself, it has to know suffering, cause of suffering, and path to the end of suffering, and cessation of suffering, cessation of craving. Nirvana. I think it's the right place to stop at Nibbana.